Hi YouTube and welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are talking about Instagram Insights. I thought it was a good idea to do an updated video. I have done some previous YouTube videos about Insights that you can see here and here, and they are some of my most watched videos. And since Insights has had a bit of an update in the last few months, it looks a little bit different than it did before. I thought it was worth doing a new video. Now, one thing I want to mention before we dive into the Insights, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of my phone. We're going to do a walkthrough, a screen recording together so you can see everything that I'm seeing and talking you through. Before we get to that, I did just want to talk a little bit about the insights that I look at. Now, I have made another video about this, about what insights I look at in particular, but just as a quick overview, the insights that I mainly focus on are my content insights. Yes, follower growth is a good yardstick by which to measure my success and my growth, but really I want to know what content is my audience enjoying, what topics and themes are doing well, and what content themes and topics aren't doing so well. It's really important to keep a close eye on your insights, to be checking in there at least once a month. For Instagram stories, you need to be checking in there a bit more regularly. I'll talk about that when we get to the screen recording. But you do need to get familiar with insights, because if you're not spending any time in there, then you won't know what your audience is enjoying, what they're not enjoying, and it's going to be really hard to grow, and it's going to take you a lot longer than it needs to. So I really recommend you get familiar with insights so that you can start understanding what your audience wants, and so you can do more of it. In terms of the metrics to measure, I take a look at comments, saves, shares, reach, website clicks, and follows. Now, if you have a content strategy in place, then you will know what kind of content you're sharing and why you're sharing it, what the purpose is of those different kinds of content. What you should also know is that not every piece of content is going to drive every single metric. You're not going to have one piece of content that drives loads of saves, loads of shares, loads of comments, loads of website clicks. Part of a good content strategy is having different kinds of content that serve different purposes and then measuring those results. So you know that there are certain posts that will drive comments and conversation, and you know that there are other kinds of posts that drive saves. With that said, now let's dive into the screen recording. So when you are looking at your Instagram account like this is how you access Instagram Insights. You go up to the top right-hand corner where the hamburger icon is, you click on that, the three little lines, and you will see Insights there. You click on Insights, and that will take you to this nice overview page. So you can see here that this gives you a kind of summary of how you have performed over the last week. Now, Instagram Insights are a little bit annoying in that way, in that you can't see a kind of month-on-month view. It is very much a week-by-week overview of how you are performing. So you can see here that it says, I have reached 97% more accounts in the last 7 days compared to the week previously. So generally speaking, everything is looking pretty good, but don't be too disheartened if some weeks you have slightly less, growth. If these numbers aren't always green, but sometimes they're red, it may be because you haven't posted as much. It may be because your posts haven't just performed as well. If week on week they're all in the red, then there might be something that you have to actually take a closer look at, some part of your strategy that may not be working so well for you anymore. But don't be disheartened if there is some fluctuation sometimes. So we can see here in the overview that I get a nice glance at how many accounts I've reached, how many content interactions I've had, and what my total follower growth is. And you can see here that it says I have plus 97% in terms of reach week on week, plus 70% content interactions week on week, and plus 2.7% total follower growth week on week. And then it says what content I've shared over the last week. So what we're going to do is we're going to dive into each of these areas one by one, starting with accounts reached. So you can click on that accounts reached, and it will take you into this area here. Now, this is where I can see my impressions over the last week, my account activity, and my top posts. So to explain what each of those areas mean in a bit more detail, you can see here along the top there is this bar chart which shows me on what days I reached the most people. So last week, Thursday was my most popular day. I reached 543 people. That is because I posted on Thursday as well. Did I post on the Thursday? I believe it's probably because I posted on that day as well. You will probably see a correlation here between when you have posted and on what days you reached more people, because you tend to reach more people on the days that you post. So you may well see a correlation there. Now, impressions is the amount of times people saw your content. So I have had 6,920 impressions, which is great. That's a 36% increase from the week before. Account activity. Now, profile visits. This tells me how many people saw a piece of content of mine and then clicked to have a look at my entire account. So I have 339 profile visits. Website taps, this is great. This is how many people clicked on the link in my bio, and I have 26 website taps. And email taps, I only have 2. So this is when you are looking at my account, you have the ability to hit the email button as a way of contacting me, and I had 2 email taps this week. Then I can see my top posts based on reach, my top stories, and my top IGTV videos. So in terms of my best performing reach post, that was this one. If I click on it, it should open it up for me. Great. And then I could do a little bit of a deeper dive. If I click on View Insights and swipe up, I can see that my reach was 759, and from hashtags, you can see it was 320. So this was a really good post for me. And the hashtags really helped to expand my reach for this post. So let's go back into the insights. So stories, these are the ones that helped me get the most reach this week, and IGTV videos. Now, at the time of record, Reels aren't currently showing up in the insight section of the Instagram app. I believe that they will be coming any day now, but because Reels is still so new, this isn't something you can track in your insights. However, Reels are playing a very big part in expanding your reach and impressions. So it may well be that my reach is very high because I've shared 2 Reels this week. However, I can't actually see this in the insights section, but it's just something to bear in mind. So let's go back now and have a look at the content interactions. So in content interactions, you can see that I have had 159 content interactions this week, plus 70%, well, almost 71% growth from last week. And you can see a kind of breakdown of the likes, the comments, the saves, the shares, how many story interactions I've had, and how many IGTV interactions I've had, and the top posts based on these. Now, this is interesting. However, I actually prefer to have a look at my content in more detail, and I will show you how I do that in a moment. But this is a good overview. This just shows me what's been doing well and my overall content interactions. But like I said, we're going to dive into this in a bit more detail in a moment. So now let's have a look at my total followers. In this section of the Insights app, I can see my follower breakdown, how many followers I have now, and what the increase or decrease in growth that is week on week. So it's a plus 2.7%. I can see where my top locations are, where my followers are mainly based, their age, their gender, and their most active times. So I can see that my audience is most active on a Monday, Tuesday. Oh, if I click on that, if you actually click on the bar chart, it will give you figures. So it's, it's fairly similar. There isn't much difference day on day. So, my most popular day is a Wednesday with 1,085. That seems to be, my highest number of active followers on that day. But you can see that there isn't a huge disparity between the numbers. In terms of hours, if I scroll down, it looks like 3 p.m. on a Thursday is my most active day. So yeah, again, kind of early to late 6 p.m. on a Friday. Late afternoon is when my audience is most active, and generally speaking on a Wednesday or Tuesday or, Monday. But to be honest with you, the most active times for your audience, this can help to give you a bit of an insight into when it might be worthwhile posting. But in terms of should you stick to this religiously and, base your posting schedule around this, these statistics, I think you're better off posting at times that feel good to you And, that is generally speaking what works best for most people. Stick to a posting schedule that works for you and that you can be consistent with, rather than getting too caught up in what those, metrics are telling you. Now, in terms of content, I like to do a deep dive into this, and you really should be tracking how your content is performing at least once every month. For Instagram stories, this should be every 2 weeks, because the stories metrics disappears every 14 days. So what I like to do is I like to go into my content into more detail. So when you are in that first area, when you look at your insights, you get the overview, and then if you scroll down, it will show you content you shared. And I like to go into this one by one. So if we have a look at main feed grid posts and we click on that, this is where I can see all of my grid content over the last year. Now, what I will do is, things are slowly but surely loading. What I will do is I will go up here and I will filter by the following metrics. So I like to look at comments, saves, shares, reach, website clicks, and follows. Those are the ones that I look at to see how my content is performing for each of those things. So I'm not going to go through each of them now, but let's just have a quick look at saves, for example. And I then will filter it by the last 30 days, or in actual fact, the last 3 months. So when I'm tracking to see how my content is performing, what topics and themes and formats are doing well, and what topics, themes and formats aren't doing so well, I like to make any kind of big decisions about what I'm going to stop doing and what I'm going to continue doing based on the last 3 months. I think if you're looking at just the last 30 days, because some of that content in the last 30 days you will have only shared in the last few days, I don't always think that's a fair representation of what's working and what isn't. I think looking at the last 3 months gives you a much better picture of what's working and what isn't. So this is having a look at my content that has been most saved over the last 3 months. And I can see that carousels are really, really my best performing content in terms of saves. This isn't a surprise to me. Carousels are a great way of sharing educational, informative content. And for that reason, people like to save them so they can reference them later. So I can see that carousels are doing really well for me, talking about getting better engagement, getting better story views, and that also ties into engagement. That is some of my best performing topics of conversation. So I can see there that is my most saved content. Images of me, if we look down here, they are not my most saved pieces of content. However, I'm not going to say that, I'm never going to share images of me, because if I filter by comments, for example, now we can see that the images of me are some of my best performing posts in terms of comments. And that's why it's important to A, have a content strategy, and B, then to go in and analyze the content at least once a month, so you can go in and see whether that content is performing in the way that you are expecting it to. So that is what I do with main feed content. If we go back, what I do with stories is the 2 metrics I have a look at for stories are actually reach and replies. Now, the reason I look at reach and replies is because reach will enable me to figure out my retention rate, because when I know the reach figure, I can then actually do a calculation which will tell me my retention rate. And retention rate tells me how engaging my stories are, how many people are sticking around from the beginning of my story right through to the end. I will put the reach calculation on the screen now. And essentially it is finding the reach number of your first and last slides of a story, and then plugging them into this calculation so you can figure out how engaging your story is. The other metric that I like to look at is replies, and this just tells me which of my stories are the most engaging and sparking the most conversation. Now, as you can see here, my stories about Winston, the corgi, and the more personal Instagram stories where I am talking about places I'm visiting and exciting things that are happening for me, featuring myself, these also spark conversation, and you will probably see that personal Instagram stories do the same for you as well. So if we just jump back to the final element of the insights, this is IGTV video. Now, if you don't share IGTV video, then you won't see this here, but if you do, you can click on that and then have a look at some of the different metrics and how your IGTV has been performing for you. So that is everything inside your Instagram Insights. You have an overview of how many people you've reached, how many accounts you've reached, how your content has been performing for you, how your follower growth is tracking, and then you can do a deeper dive into the content specifically to see how it has been performing in terms of those different metrics that we talked about. So that is the new look Instagram Insights. I hope that has been helpful for you. So that's it, a walkthrough of the new Instagram Insights. I hope that was helpful. I hope that you feel a little more comfortable with what it is that you're looking at when you go behind the scenes of your Instagram account. Really, there is so much good stuff in your Insights. That is where you will find out what your audience wants, what they're enjoying, what they're not, and what you can do more of to get more results and better results sooner. Don't forget that I've dropped a bunch of links in the description box below to videos like this and also to some other cool free resources like my 1 month of Instagram story ideas. Don't forget to grab that. And I'll see you next week for a brand new video. Thank you. Bye.